Hello everyone, welcome back to our pre-review class for the Cooperative Code of the Philippines. So for this video, we will discuss about the responsibilities, rights, and privileges of cooperative. So every cooperative shall have an official postal address to which all notices and communications shall be sent. Such address and every change thereof shall be registered with the authority. So basically, the reason why every company or including cooperative should have their official postal address para magkaroon din ng official place for notices and communications. And of course, para madaling ilocate yung business in case there are fraudulent transactions or there are cases or there are problems, no? Para meron talagang place kung saan pupunta yung mga clients. Books to be kept open. Every cooperative shall have the following documents ready and accessible to its members and representatives of the authority for inspection during reasonable office hours at its official address. So a copy of this code and all other laws pertaining to cooperatives. So if you are a member of a cooperative, you have the right to inspect the books of accounts and other books of the cooperative, including the articles of cooperation and bylaws, the register of members, the books of the minutes of the meetings of the General Assembly, Board of Directors and Committee, share books where applicable, financial statement, and such other documents as may be prescribed by laws or the bylaws. And the person or the officer who has the primary responsibility to keep these books is the accountant or the bookkeeper. Reports. Every cooperative shall draw up regular reports of its program of activities, including those in pursuance of their social-civic undertakings, showing their progress and achievements at the end of every fiscal year. So basically, lahat naman, di ba, ng mga companies, including cooperatives, are required to submit the reports to the authority. Register of members as prima facie evidence. Any register or list of members, shares kept by any registered cooperative shall be prima facie evidence of the following particulars entered therein: the date on which the name of any person was entered in such register or list of member, and the date on which any such person ceased to be a member. So you can present as proof yung register or list of members na kailan ka na-admit as a member of the co-op and kailan ka din nag-cease as a member. Probative value of certified copies of entries. A copy of any entry in any book, register, or list regularly kept in the course of business in the possession of a cooperative shall, if duly certified in accordance with rules of evidence, be admissible as evidence of the existence of entry and prima facie evidence of the matters and transactions therein recorded. So, basically, kapag mga certified copies ng mga private companies, including corporations and sole proprietorship, ano kasi yon, or partnership, yung certified copies nila, kahit sinertify nila yan, hindi yan automatically maging admissible in evidence. Kailangan merong person na mag-authenticate ng document. Kailangan meron kang witness to authenticate the document na yan talaga yung document na inisyo ng partnership, ng corporation, tsaka ng mga companies, di ba? But here in cooperative, this is a special provision for them, a privilege to cooperatives, na kapag nag-issue pala ng certified true copy yung cooperative, magiging admissible in evidence yun ng mga entry na nakalagay doon sa document. So you need not have any person to certify or to authenticate the document, kasi nga kapag sinertify ng co-op, automatically that can be admissible as evidence, as to the entries lang din ng document, like yung, for example, yung certificate of stock, or basta yung proof mo na magkano yung shares mo, anong name mo, kailan ka na-admit, etc. Magkano yung value ng shares mo. So, yun, magiging admissible in evidence yun siya. No person or a cooperative is in possession of the books of such cooperative shall, in any legal proceedings to which the cooperative is not a party, be compelled to produce any of the books of the cooperative, the contents of which can be proved and the matters and section are constantly recorded unless by order of a competent court. Although the documents certified by the co-op can be admissible in evidence, but you cannot just request that para i-present mo sa court. Kailangan meron kang court order before ka makakuha ng mga books or any documents from the cooperative. Bonding of accountable officers. Every director, officer, and employee handling funds, securities, or property on behalf of any cooperative shall be covered by a surety bond to be issued for a duly registered insurance or bonding company for the faithful performance of their respective duties and obligations. The Board of Directors shall determine the adequacy of such bonds. So, yung mga director natin, officer, tsaka yung mga employee like treasurer, like cashiers, or collectors, so, or yung mga property custodian, kailangan meron silang bond or insurance to answer for any loss or mismanagement or whatever na kapag may nangyaring masama sa mga funds, securities, or property, yun ang magsasagot ng loss or damage. Preference of claims, ayan, ito, one important privilege ng co-ops. They have preference sa mga debt due to the cooperative from the member. First lien, take note, upon any raw materials, production, inputs, and products produced, or any land, building, facilities, equipment, goods, or services acquired and held. So kapag may utang yung member, marami siyang utang, merong first lien, yung co-op sa utang. Okay? With respect to the raw materials, production, inputs, and products produced, like for example, yung mga producers co-op, like Humay. So yung co-op yung nag-finance ng production of rice. So ngayon, kunyari yung member, marami siyang utang, aside sa utang niya sa co-op, may utang siya sa mga banks, etc. Ngayon, ang sabi ng batas, meron daw first lien yung co-op over doon sa produce, yung sa mga rice. So mapupunta yun sa co-op, hindi yun mapupunta sa ibang creditors kasi nga merong privilege na first lien, preference of claim, yung co-op na over doon sa mga raw materials, production, inputs, and products produced. No property or interest on property which is subject to a lien under paragraph 1 shall be sold nor conveyed to third parties without the prior permission of the cooperative. So hindi pwedeng ibenta kung hindi magkuha ng permission from the co-op. The lien upon the property or interest shall constitute to exist even after, shall continue to exist even after the sale or conveyance thereof until such lien has been duly extinguished. So any sale or conveyance made in contravention of paragraph 2 hereof shall be void. Instrument for salary or wage deduction. A member of a cooperative may, notwithstanding the provisions of existing laws to the contrary, execute an instrument in favor of the co-op, authorizing his employer to deduct from his or her salary or wages, commutation of leave credits, and any other monetary benefits payable to him by the employer, and remit such amount as may be specified in satisfaction of a debt or other demand due from the member of the cooperative to the cooperative. Upon the execution of such instrument, and as may be required by the cooperative contained in a written request, the employer shall make the deduction in accordance with the agreement and deduction in accordance with the agreement and remit forthwith the amount so deducted within 10 days after the end of the payroll month to the cooperative. The employer shall make the deduction for as long as such debt or other demand remains unpaid by the employee. So pwede kang mangutang sa co-op and then mag-execute lang ng memorandum of agreement yung employer mo tsaka yung co-op para magkaroon ng salary deduction. Primary lien. A cooperative shall have primary lien upon the capital, deposits, or interest of a member for any debt due to the cooperative from such a member. Ibig sabihin lang nito na hindi pwede na yung member ipambayad niya sa kanyang outside na utang yung kanyang kapital sa co-op. Kasi yung co-op ang may primary lien doon. No? In case na meron kang utang sa co-op, hindi ka nakabayad, pwede nilang kunin doon sa capital deposits or interest mo. Sila yung may first priority. Yan ang ibig sabihin yan. Ito, tax treatment of cooperative, duly registered cooperatives under this code which do not transact any business with non-members or the general public shall not be subject to any taxes and fees imposed under the Internal Revenue Tax Laws and other tax laws. Cooperatives not falling under this article should be governed by the succeeding section. So, kung ang co-op, yung transaction niya is exclusively to members, hindi siya subject to any national internal revenue taxes and other tax laws, gaya ng income tax, VAT, percentage tax, doc stamp, etc. So, hindi siya subject to national internal revenue tax. However, kapag nag-transact siya to non-members, meron tayong ibang rule for that. No? That is under this particular provisions, no? Tax and other exemptions. Cooperatives transacting with business with both members and non-members shall not be subjected to tax on their transactions with members. So, yung hindi lang subject sa tax, yung with members lang. In relation to this, the transactions of members with the cooperative shall not be subject to any taxes and fees, including but not limited to final taxes on members' deposits and documentary tax. Okay? Notwithstanding the provisions of any law or regulation to the contrary, such cooperatives dealing with non-members shall enjoy the following tax exemption. So, even if nag-transact ka with non-members, meron ka pa ding tax exemption. Okay? Cooperatives with accumulated reserves and undivided net savings of not more than 10 million shall be exempt from all national, city, provincial, municipal, or barangay taxes of whatever name and nature. So, kahit na yung co-op nag-transact with members and non-members, di ba sabi natin, yung exemption lang is with members. But with non-members, ito yung rule. Magiging exempted yung transaction mo with non-members kung yung reserves mo, accumulated reserves and undivided net savings mo, hindi sosobra ng 10 million. Pero kapag sumobra na yan ng 10 million, yung income mo from non-members will now be subject to tax. Exempt from customs duties, advance sales or compensating taxes on their importation of machineries, equipment, and spare parts used by them and which are not available locally as certified by the Department of Trade and Industry. Ito, iba din ito na item. Exempted talaga kahit na with non-members. Yung kanina, yung sa national, city, provincial, municipal, or barangay taxes, exempted siya kapag hindi sosobra ng 10 million yung kanilang accumulated reserves and undivided net savings. What about nag-exceed na ngayon? More than 10 million yung kanilang accumulated reserves and undivided net savings, no? More than 10 million na. So meron siyang shall be, ayan na, ito na yung rule. Income tax on the amount allocated for interests on capital. So, di ba, merong capital contribution yung member. So, yung income tax doon lang sa interest. Okay? But, this is a portion lang na with respect sa non-members. Kasi sa mga members, exempted sila. That the same tax is not consequently imposed on interest individually received by members, provided further that cooperatives regardless of classification are exempt from income tax from the date of registration with the authority. VAT on transactions with non-members, provided, however, that cooperatives duly registered with the authority are exempt from the payment of the VAT. Ay, okay, let me clarify myself. No? Sa income tax, it does, regardless kung member or non-member yung transaction mo, kapag sumobra na pala yung accumulated reserves and undivided net savings mo of more than 10 million, automatic, masasubject na sa income tax yung interest ng capital. Okay? Sa VAT, with respect lang to non-members. All other taxes, unless otherwise provided herein, and donations to charitable research and education institutions, and reinvestment to socioeconomic projects within the area of operation of the may be tax deductible. Okay. All cooperatives, regardless of the amount of accumulated reserves and undivided net savings, shall be exempt from payment of local taxes and taxes on transactions with banks and insurance companies. So, kahit na more than 10 million yung reserves mo, exempted ka talaga sa local taxes and taxes on transactions with banks and insurance companies, provided that all sales or services rendered for non-members shall be subject to the applicable percentage taxes sales made by producers, marketing, or service cooperatives, provided further that nothing in this article shall preclude the examination of the books of accounts or other accounting records of the cooperative by duly authorized internal revenue officers for internal revenue tax purposes only after previous authorization by the authority. In areas where there are no available notaries public, the judge exercising his ex officio capacity as notary public shall render service free of charge to any person or group of persons requiring the administration of oath or the acknowledgement of articles of cooperation, instruments of loan from cooperatives not exceeding 500,000 pesos. So, kunyari, yung ilo-loan mo is hindi sa sobra ng 500,000, so pwede ka magpalibre doon sa judge kung walang available notary public. Without bayad yan siya. Pero kung walang, kung more than 500,000 naman, hindi na siya free, no? Hindi na siya free of charge. But kapag merong mga available notary public, of course, magbabayad ka. Okay? Any register of deeds shall accept for registration free of charge any instrument relative to a loan made under this code. So, di ba imagine, napakadami ng privilege ng co-ops, no? Free yung kailang charge no kapag magpa-annotate ka doon ng mortgage, di ba, sa registry of deeds. So which does not exceed 250,000. Basta yung loan mo hindi susobra ng 250,000. Or the deeds of title of any property acquired by the cooperative or any paper or document drawn in connection with any action brought by the cooperative or with any court judgment rendered in its favor or any instrument relative to a bond of any accountable officer of cooperative for the faithful performance of his duties and obligations. Cooperatives shall be exempt from the payment of all court and sheriff's fees payable to the Philippine government for in connection with all actions brought under this code or where such actions is brought by the authority before the court to enforce the payment of obligations contracted in favor of the cooperative. Imagine, wala silang filing fee. Okay? Hindi sila magbabayad ng filing fee basta mangolekta sila ng utang at umabot na sila sa korte. All cooperatives shall be exempt from putting up a bond for bringing an appeal against the decision of an inferior court or for seeking to set aside any third-party claim, provided that a certification of the authority showing that the net assets of the cooperative are in excess of the amount of the bond required by the court in similar cases shall be accepted by the court as a sufficient bond. Any security issued by cooperative shall be exempt from the provisions of the Securities Act, provided such security shall not be speculative. Cooperatives registered under this code, notwithstanding the provisions of any law to the contrary, be also accorded the following privileges. Cooperatives shall enjoy the privilege of depositing their sealed cash boxes or containers, documents, or any valuable papers in the safes of the municipal or city treasurers and other government offices free of charge, and the custodian of such article shall issue a receipt acknowledging the articles received duly witnessed by another person. Cooperatives organized among government employees, notwithstanding any law or regulation to the contrary, shall enjoy the free use of any available space in their agency, whether owned or rented by the government. No? So, meaning kapag government siya, ng mga co-op siya ng mga government employees, pwede silang gumamit ng space no, sa government facility. Free of charge. Cooperatives rendering special types of services and facilities such as cold storage, ice plant, electricity, transport, and similar services shall secure a franchise therefore. And such course shall open in membership to all members qualified in the areas of operation. In areas where appropriate cooperatives exist, the preferential right to supply government institutions and rice, corn, and other grains, fish, and other marine products, meat, eggs, milk, vegetables, and tobacco, and other agricultural commodities produced by the member shall be granted to the cooperative concern. See, merong preferential right sa to supply to the government. Preferential treatment in the allocation of fertilizers, including seeds and other agricultural inputs and implements, and in rice distribution shall be granted to cooperatives by the appropriate government agencies. Preferential and equitable treatment in the allocation control of bottom race of commercial shipping vessels in connection with the shipment of goods and products of cooperatives. Cooperatives and their federations such as farm and fishery producers and suppliers, market vendors, and such other cooperatives which have for their primary purpose the production and or the marketing of products from agriculture, fisheries, and small entrepreneurial industries and federations thereof shall have preferential rights in the management of public markets and or lease of public market facilities. Cooperatives engaged in credit services and our federation shall be entitled to loans, credit lines, rediscounting of their loan notes and other eligible papers with the DBP, the Land Bank of the Philippines, and other financial institutions except BSP. The PDIC and other government agencies, government uncontrolled corporations, and government financial shall provide technical assistance to registered national federations and unions of cooperatives which have significant engagement in savings and credit corps in order for this federation to establish and or strengthen their own autonomous cooperative deposit insurance system. So meron silang separate pala yung cooperative deposit insurance system yung sa kanila. So hindi sila under sa PDIC. Bigyan lang si PDIC ng technical advice or assistance. A public transport service cooperative may be entitled to financing support for the acquisition and or maintenance of land and sea transport equipment, facilities, and parts through the program of the government financial institutions. Cooperatives transacting business with the government of the Philippines or any of its political subdivisions or any of its agencies, including GOCC, shall be exempt from pre-qualification bidding requirements. Cooperatives shall enjoy the privilege of being represented by the provincial or city fiscal or the office of the Soljan free of charge. Pati representation, di ba? Cooperatives organized by faculty members and employees of education institutions shall have the preferential right in the management of the canteen. Kaya co-op yung nagkakanteen, no? The appropriate housing agencies and government financial institutions shall create a special window for financing housing projects undertaken by co-ops. The authority, in consultation with the appropriate government agencies and concerned cooperative sector, shall issue rules and regulations on all matters concerning housing cooperatives. Okay, that ends now our discussion for the rights, responsibilities, and privileges of cooperatives. See you in our next video. Goodbye.